Hi, this is 365801 and this is another 2023 year in BL review video, and this is for all of my purchases in 2023. So this is another one of these videos. This one is looking at all of my purchases throughout the year and also looking at my reading rate. I do maintain that reading and collecting are two separate hobbies, but back in, I think it was May or June in 2021, I did an audit of my collection and found that there was over 700 manga volumes on my TBR, as in they were unread. That's way too many unread manga to have. And every year I've been checking and auditing how much I'm bringing in and how much I have read from when I brought them in. Last year, in 2022, I was really being mindful about not bringing in a lot, so I reduced my number down significantly. So I didn't bring in a lot of manga, and that meant my total expenditure was low, which was great. That's one of the things I was trying to focus on. And because I wasn't bringing in a lot, and some of them were newer titles, in fact, I had a quite high percentage of new titles, I was reading more. So I had a higher percentage of read rate, which was great as well. So we're going to see if that's the same this year, because for 2023, I really wanted to maintain that percentage and maybe even see if I could improve on it. And so I think I was a little less mindful about what I was buying and how much I was spending, and I was more mindful of trying to get my reading rate up. And so my main goal for 2023 was read what you buy. If you're gonna buy it, you must be interested, so take the time to read. So we're going to be looking at that in this video. We're going to go month by month and look at what I brought in and what I read, why I read it, what I didn't read, why I didn't read it, and any other stats and things like that that might be interested. Series started, series finished, that kind of thing, which is something I looked at last year as a new thing, which I hadn't really been looking at previously. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with January. So this might look familiar. It's very similar to last year's, the page, but it is for 2023. But I just thought I would use the exact same key. If it's a 2023 release, or if I'm counting it as, it's in yellow. If I read it, it's in orange. If it completes a series, then it's in green. And if it starts a new series in my collection, it is pink. And here are all the stats that I have for January. Now in January I brought in 6 physical volumes. Twittering Birds, Volume 7, which I read, which kept me up to date with that series. Deadlock, Volume 4, which I read in a reading vlog with Katie, and that was completing the series, hence it's in green. I got 10 Dance, Volume 2, which is the only one that I didn't read. I didn't read this volume, unfortunately. And I also got the Infernal Devices volumes 1 to 3. So that's a 6-volume total for physical, and 5 out of 6 I read, which is fantastic. And that gives me a pretty high start to the year because I was being very conscious. And that's 83.3% read rate, which is, I'm very, very excited and happy about. Now, the other thing is that I bought 6 digital titles and I read all of them. So in terms of my digital, that's 100% read rate, which is great. So basically January's a brilliant start. So the only outlier there is 10 Dance Volume 2. And I'm a little bit disappointed with myself because January's the start of the year. I have the whole rest of the year to read this and I didn't. And I think it's because Volume 7 is out and I'm not up to date. I don't have Volume 7, but I do have all the rest. Volume 2 was necessary because it's a Volume 2. I read Volume 1. I have 3 through 6 and I needed 2 to be able to read the rest of the series, and I got it in January. And I have the whole rest of the year. I didn't read it. So I am a little bit disappointed that I don't have a 100% read rate from January, just purely because of 10 Dance Volume 2. I feel like I should just forget about picking up Volume 7 straight away. They're gonna be more expensive, and I was waiting till I could get 10 Dance Volume 2 for a good price, and £8.14 was the best price I have seen for this particular volume, which is a shame because you know, I like bargains. So yeah, overall this is a really good month. They're a little bit pricier just because these were a lot of June manga titles, but I think it was a pretty good month. I was trying really hard to not spend money but only get what I wanted and be selective and to read what I got. So yeah, January was a great start to the year, especially when you add in all of these digital titles, with 83.3 for just the physicals and 100% for the digital. So pretty good. If we move on to February, it's maybe not the best, but that's maybe because I picked up 16 physical titles, no digital. And I did read quite a lot of them, but it was only 8 out of 16. And that's 50%, which is still not bad. I mean, my average for the year last year was, I think it was like 55, I think 55, something like that. So a pretty good average. And if all of my months were 50, I'd be quite happy, actually. But yeah, there's a few that I didn't read. And why didn't I read it? The Pole Clan, Volume 1, it's a big one. It's a big one. And it's probably a little bit intimidating, and that's why. And then we've got Monochrome Factor, which are older ones, so there's no real, like, push or desire. There needs to be a reason for me to go, okay. But I did complete the series, actually, so Volume 4 I should have highlighted in pink. I didn't realise that. So yeah, although technically I think there's a 5th volume in Japanese, and that's maybe why. But yeah, I should have highlighted Volume 4 in pink, because this is completing the series. Unless there's any more. No, I think I got Volume 1 in the December. So yeah, that was pretty good. And there's other ones like Scum Villain, or the other 2 down here that are Danmei light novels. And I've already read it as a fan translation. I'm just picking up the volumes because I have already read it and they're coming out. So I'm getting them when they're in good prices. And the other one up here, which is Rush, which is the drama queen one. And I'm not really that bothered. It's OELs, guys. It's OELs. So the ones that I did read, though, are ones that I'm really interested in and are new. So that's the reason why. The new ones are new. They're shiny. I can't help myself. Shiny and new. I want to read. And they're newer than things like Monochrome Factor or Rush. And of course a light novel, which I need to sit down and actually read. And I don't have all of the volumes either. So yeah, there's gaps there. But yeah, if we move on to March, I have a total of 19 physical volumes that I picked up. And of those physical volumes, I read 16 of them. 16 out of 19. That's quite a lot. And that gives me an 84.2% read rate, which is even better than January. How is that? How is it that I bought this many and I still have a higher rating, just with only one missing? So there you go. I also have one digital title, and that was a one that I read. So I also picked up that one and read it, and so I've got 100%. So far, I've got 100% for all of my digital titles. So many of these were part of a big box job lot, and they were all really cheap as well, so £4.74 each. And as with the ones that were in February, some of these I read, like BL Metamorphosis, I think was in the Bonbon readathon, and also the Manga Love readathon in February, so I took part in those readathons, so I did read a few titles there. But these ones here in March, most of these I read in the 30 and 30 in April. I had this huge big lot sitting there of newer titles, really excited, a lot of Tokyo Pop that I hadn't read yet, and I wanted to read them, so I read them in 1330. And I think my 1330s, and any readathon actually, most of the things I read with readathons. They really helped me to bring my reading up. So I took part actively in a lot of readathons, and these were mostly read there. The ones that I didn't read are worth looking at. Jealousy Volume 4 is, that's going to be a one and done. And I didn't have the final volumes that I needed to complete that series. His Favourite Volume 11 did complete the little gap that I had, but now there's a volume 13 and I'd need to do a big reread of the whole series. So that's daunting, a bit like the Pokemon. It's a kind of big read of a big series. And then What Did You Eat Yesterday is kind of similar because it's volume 17, which didn't keep me up to date, but it did keep me up to date in the series. So I have up to volume 17 and I do need to get, I think it's up to volume 20 now. But yeah, it's kind of daunting because there's a lot, although it's kind of relaxing too at the same time. And then the other one is Cast Heaven Volume 8, which is another one that I needed to get the other volume. So there was a volume missing. So the ones that are in the non-read pile are there for a reason, and usually it's because I'm missing volumes from the series. But everything else I read, and that's pretty darn good. I'm very happy about my March percentage at 84. Then if we look at April, now April goes on to the next page as well. This is 16 and I read 11 out of 16, which is still pretty good. And that gives me a 68.75, so pretty much 69% rate of reading, which is still really good. So my worst month so far is 50%, and that's really good. So I did do some of these as buddy reads. So Incubus was a buddy read, but a lot of them once again were ones that I read as part of readathons. A lot of 30/30, especially because April was the 13/30 month, so anything that came in and was brand new, it was kind of nice to have that as part of my vlogs, to be like, hey guys, this package just arrived, what is it? And do I want to read it right now? Yes, I do. And having the excuse to read it straight away was really good. So yeah, the Song of Yoru and Asa meant that I could read that and the second volume, Song of Yoru and Asa Encore, because that's one I got in February, so I could read them both. It also finished the series, which is great. And then BL Metamorphosis, I managed to get the final volume for that, which meant I finished the series and I could read that one. And then on the other side, I've got some new series started, volume 1s. And I also finished some that are out as well. Thigh High, volume 3, another completed one. So the ones that I didn't read in April are Seaside Strangers, because I started collecting it in that month, and there's volumes missing. So I could read volume 1. Did I read volume 1? I think I actually did, so that should probably be highlighted. Now I'm actually going through this, I'm like, didn't I read that? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I'll have to check again. Maybe that's why it's not highlighted. So yeah, I've got volume 5 as well. But then I got a couple of digital titles, which is Dekoboko extras, because I could get the Dekoboko Red that I purchased in March. And that was really good. So I read every digital title that I bought in April as well. So that's 100% read rate for my digital, which is great. But yeah, everything else, a lot of these I read in the readathons. The Husky and His White Cat, that is another light novel, so I have read that as well as a fan translation, so I'm just picking them up as and when. Descending Stories volume 9 is a volume 9, so I'm missing other volumes. And Hitojime My Hero volume 12, I think, got me up to date with the series, but I think volume 13 has now come out, and I don't know if it came out in 2023 or in 2024. So yeah, I think is it 2020 or is it volume 14? Anyway, I know I'm behind with Hitojime now, but at quite a significant portion of 2023 I was up to date, but still not reading them because, like What Did You Eat Yesterday or the Pokemon, it's kind of daunting because there's a lot of volumes. So yeah, that's another reason. If we go to May, I got 11 physical volumes and I read 8 of them, which is still a really good percentage. So that's 72.72% read rate, which is once again over 50%. So far I haven't had less than 50%, which is so good, so good to get to May and be reading everything. Now I think there was maybe some other readathons happening, but I'm trying to remember what. Was there a spring one? There was the one-shot one that was also during April. So yeah, there's definitely been quite a lot of readathons, and I really enjoyed participating in them. In May, I did pick up quite a few good ones, and I did read these as well. But the ones that I didn't read, like Loveless, I need to read the preceding volumes. Titan's Bride was a volume 2. That was me starting a series, and I needed to pick up volume 1, so I couldn't read that. I think the only other one that I really need to mention is Manly Appetites, which is also a new series. So that was me picking up a new series. But I didn't complete any series in May. So I just started 3. I did have 1 digital title and I read it. So I'm still at 100% for my digital. Throughout the year, it's always 100% so far. So yeah, 8 out of 11, 72%. Pretty good for May. The ones that I read, I think I read during readathons. Yeah, pretty much. I might have read some of these during Manga Pride reads in June, which is where we're going next. So I picked up 21 physical in June, but I only read 7. We're finally at a month where I'm kind of not proud of myself. So we kind of have to spend a bit of time looking at this. Like, what did I read versus what I didn't read? So this only gives me a 33%, like 1 full third. I read a third of what I bought in June, which is a real shame. So I'm wondering what it is that I read and what I didn't read. So Hyperventilation is an easy one-shot read. And You Are My Happiness, another one-shot. Black or White, Volume 2, did start the series. So I read this later on in the year because I was able to pick up Volume 1. And Dick Fight Island Volume 2, that completed the series. Bad Boys Happy Home was Volume 1, so I could start that. In fact, should that be highlighted? No, because I got Volume 3 first. Sayonara Game, I picked up and I think I read during my 801 readathon, so another readathon, my own one that helped me to read this, and Fence Volume 5, which at that point in time got me up to date. Since then, in 2024, January, I think Fence Volume 6 has been released, so I'm now 1 behind. But at that point, I was up to date. Now, the ones I didn't read, I kind of have reasons for it. Sada Zanmai, I haven't actually, these are light novels, I haven't actually watched the anime. Heaven Official's Blessing, I was missing volumes. The Betrayal Knows My Name, Volume 2. I could read this because I have got Volume 1, so I could start the series. But it's an old thing, and I've watched the anime, so I just want to actually collect these volumes before I maybe just binge the whole thing. And then Restart After Growing Hungry is the second one. So I started this one. This was a new pickup. But I need to get the Volume 1 of it. The story starts there. It ends here. Then I've got Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation Manhwa. Oh, that should be highlighted orange as well. Because I read that. I read that in my my own 801 readathon. I buddy read it as well. I think it was Sarah. So that isn't 33. Yay! It's more than that. It's just a little more. So I'm going to have to change that. That's pretty good. Then Cherry Magic Volume 6 is one that I'm missing volumes from. My Brother's Husband I could have read because it's Volume 1, but I do want to get Volume 2 and just read the whole series. Princess Plus. I haven't got the whole of Princess yet, so it's kind of like an addition. And then Merman in My Tub, Volume 4 and 5, so I'm missing the volume. So a lot of these are missing volumes. A couple of them are starting series or the first volumes, but I want to get the rest of them before I read. So those are the reasonings behind it. But that was great to know that I missed one out. I have actually read that. So yeah, my percentage is slightly wrong. It should be 8 out of 21. And then if we move on to July, I picked up 18 physical volumes. It's quite a lot again. And I didn't read that many of them. Or, well, we'll check. 6 volumes I've read out of 18, which gives me another 33.3%. average, which is kind of, once again, disappointing, but we'll see if that's actually accurate or not. So yeah, what did I read and what did I not read? So I read Manly Appetites volume 3, and that completed the series, so I could sit and binge the whole thing, but I actually had read volumes 1 and 2 first, so this just meant I was finishing it. Our Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide volume 1 I actually read during my September 1330, because I was trying to read all of my digital titles, which I did really well with. And then I read Jeweler Richard Manga volume 1, which was starting the series. Black or White, which also with volume 2 I could read together. Don't Be Cruel, which kept me up to date. I'm up to date with that one. And Only the Flower Knows volume 3, which I eventually read, I think, in November. Yeah. Was it a buddy read? I think it was a buddy read with Katie. Yes, it was. We did it as a buddy read. Was this the November buddy read? Yes. So when I finally got the final volume as well, I needed to. And then the other ones that I read were my 4 digital titles. So I bought 4 and I read 4. So my digital titles are once again at 100%. I haven't dropped a single digital title. The ones I didn't read, it's quite significant. So it's a bit of a shame because it's just like June, it's more. It feels like it's disappointing. Cast Heaven, I'm missing a volume. Prince Barry, I'm missing a volume. X Kai, or just Kai, I could read, but like Monochrome Factor, I need a reason to. Maybe I should just do a vlog of reading old slashable Tokyopop titles. Descendants of Darkness, also very similar reasons, but I also am missing some volumes, so I want to just binge the whole thing. Kizuna, Bonds of Love, volume 3, I'm missing some volumes. And if we go over to look at these ones, Embracing Love, again, missing some volumes. Family Complex, I could read, it's just a one-shot, but I don't know where I'd put it in. I need a reason for it. And then Descending Stories, volumes 1, 2, and 3. And I could read some of these digitally, but I do want to just collect all of them. So I have read volume 1, and I really enjoyed it. So I could have read volume 2 and 3 as well. So there's reasons for some of them not being read, but not great excuses. But 33% in previous years would have been a really great percentage. And this year, it's not at all. So a worst performing month in 2023 is the best performing month in like 2020. It's crazy, the difference. So if we go on to August, which was my 801 readathon month, which I'm really happy about. I actually was also really happy because I didn't purchase a lot, but I'd purchased quite a few things in the previous month that I read during August, which is great. Now I picked up 5 physical and I read 4 out of the 5, which gives me an 80% read rate, which is phenomenal. Really, really great. And the only one I didn't read was Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, a light novel, volume 4. And that's because I don't have a couple of the volumes. Once again, there's volumes missing. The ones I did read, My Love Mix-Up volume 8, because I had been keeping up to date with My Love Mix-Up. That goes downhill at the end of the year. Spoiler alert. And then the 3 there was Vampire and His Pleasant Companions, which I read as a buddy read with Bizarre in October as well. I didn't read a lot of manga in October because I was a bit ill and also very busy with work. And so unfortunately there's not many, but I did read something that was kind of spooky as well. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation is the only one. Once again, I have 1 digital title and I read it. So I'm still 100%. I'm doing really well. The 100% mark. Oh, if we go over to September, and I purchased 13 physical, and I read 10 of those 13, so that gives me a 76.9% read rate, which is pretty good. It's still really good. The ones that I got and I read, Manner of Death was a new one, and I'm Kind of Chubby, and I'm Your Hero, volume 1, that was a new one. I read His House Volume 2, which completed the series, but I also read the second volume of Julia Richard, Only the Flower Knows, that was in the November buddy read, Given Volume 7, that was right at the end of the year, Scattering His Virgin Bloom, that was also at the end of the year, Sick, Other World's Books Depend on the Bean Counter, that was November. I read a lot in November, and that's because I did my own 1330. Now, 1330 is hosted by, now I've got to get them right, Bree, Ashley, Izzy, and Shay. So the four of them host the 1330s, and they pick a couple of months in the year to do the readathon. It's usually April and another month, and the year before it was November, so in my head it was like, oh, I'll read them in November, and it ended up being September. So I had so many that I didn't get round to reading in September because I got ill, that I decided to do it in November. So I read a lot of these in November, unfortunately not in the September, because I had started reading all of my digital, and I did really well with that. As you can see, I did really well with my digital. The ones that I didn't read are, once again, Sarah Zanmai, Here and Here, and some Cherry Magic, which is one that I have missing volumes for. So 10 out of 13 is pretty darn good. I think that's a really great statistic, especially when I look at the fact that the other two are Sarah Zanmai and a Cherry Magic. So I need to maybe focus on picking up the missing volumes for Cherry Magic to be able to read that series and get those ones read. So if we go into October, October was a pretty poor month in terms of reading and purchasing. And like I said, I wasn't very well. It took me quite a long time to read the two titles in Manga that I read, which was The Vampire and His Pleasant Companions and Incubus as a buddy read. So that's when I read The Purchase from April. I finally got around to reading that volume 3 from Incubus. But what did I buy? I bought 4 physical volumes, and I only read one of them, which gives me the worst percentage, 25%. Which, considering there's only 4, I don't feel too bad about. It's actually not too bad. It is Ogi Summer Break Volume 2. I read the first volume in digital, and I put a little pink and green because I started it and I thought I finished it, but it's not actually finished. It's got, I think, 2 more volumes maybe, but it is up to date. But I'm not up to date because I don't have volume 1 physically. So yeah, this is when I got Ten Dance Volume 6, which means I definitely could have read a bit more Ten Dance by then. And it gave me another incentive to read Ten Dance, and yet I did not read it. So maybe I should wait until Volume 7 is in my collection and then read it. But by then, maybe there's be a Volume 8. I don't know how many volumes there are of Ten Dance, so if you know, let me know. And of course, Jealousy Volume 2, but I was still missing Volume 5 from the series, and as I do not want to read the series more than once, I am going to read it one and done as a complete. I don't want to put myself through that more than once. So yeah, even though 25% is not the highest, in fact it is the absolute lowest, I still don't feel too bad about the percentage and what I read versus what I didn't, because Sasaki and Miyano Volume 7 is the first. I think that might be the first or the second volume that I picked up. I think I maybe picked up a Volume 2. I'll have to check. But yeah, my Sasaki Miyano reading, I only have a couple of volumes, so I couldn't read Volume 7, so I'm missing volumes as well. So there's reasons for these not being read. If we go on to November, this is a whole page, and I needed to give it a whole page because I bought so much. 27 volumes in November. That is insane. And I read an almost insane number as well, 20 out of the 27. And like I said, this was mainly because I held my own 1330. I needed to do it. I needed to focus on my manga reading. And unfortunately, readathons were the only way I was like really pushing myself to read. So I'm feeling like 2024 is off to a bad start already because there's nothing in January. I don't know if there's any readathons. So if you know any readathons that are taking place in 2024, let me know in the comments down below so I can focus on getting all of the manga that I'm buying, I'm buying a lot, read in 2024. So yeah, I need to know when they are. And yes, I will, hopefully, fingers crossed, be holding my 801 readathon in August again. So yeah, let's have a look at what I read. quite a lot. No digital titles, which is a shame because I'm doing really well with them. But 20 out of 27 read, and that gives me a 74%, which is almost 75, which is crazy when you think October was 25 and November is like almost 75. That's insane. So yeah, what did I read? Why Don't You Eat Me, My Dear Wolf? New title, very exciting, loved it. Love on the Other Side, Barbarities, volumes 1 and 2. I actually had read some of it digitally earlier in the year, so that was me just picking up the physical volumes. I do need to, I think there's going to be 4, maybe 5 volumes in total, I don't know. But yeah, I Think Our Son is Gay, which is a new pickup. I Want to Be a Wall, absolutely loved, which is a new pickup, so that was a new one started. Crossplay Love, really enjoyed that one as well, a new one started. Golden Sparkle, a standalone. Scattering His Virgin Bloom was volume 2, and I did think that that was it completed, but it turns out there's a volume 3 in Japanese, so we're still getting more. Links I had read before, so I got to highlight it. Kisses, Macarons, and Lonely Pie. I did read that one as well. At the Flower Capital was part of the November buddy read. Tsumasaki ni Korozu. I read in November as well. Bean Counter, Volume 3. Yes, that was such a good read. And then Scram Blues, I had read digitally, so that was me picking it up in physical. Platinum Blood, I got to read physical. Sasaki Miyano, Volume 1, I got to read that one, and Volume 2. Loved Circus, that was me picking up a physical, even though I read it in digital in September. There are Things I Can't Tell You, it's also a physical pickup of something I read. Something about the King and the Cat, I can never remember the full title, but I got to read that one as well. So there was quite a few Tokyo Pop ones in November that I picked up. The ones that I didn't read here are Double, and I really wanted to read it by the end of the year because I have volumes 1 through 4, but I didn't get around to it. So that is a series I want to sit and read. I've heard some amazing things about it. Loads of people have been raving about it, so I really want to read, and I could because it was volumes 1 through 4. I think that's everything that's published in physical. Is there more than 4 volumes? I don't know. I need to find out. But yeah, that's one I'm a little bit disappointed because I wanted to, but then I kind of read a lot in November. My December was super busy. As you know, December is like a terrible month to read unless you have readathons to do. Seaside Stranger Volume 1 was the second time I had this volume, but I put it down as not read, but I really think I read it. Maybe I didn't. Moon and Sun Volume 1, I want to get Volume 2 before I read it, but it was a new pickup. And Scum Villain, right at the top, Volume 2. I'm still missing a volume, I think, so I need to read that. But as I said, it's a light novel prose. I'd already read it. So yeah, pretty good month, 74% read rate. That was really good, and a lot of that was because I did a 13/30. So setting myself these challenges and doing videos gives me content to put out. People seem to really enjoy it because I do read so many. Like I read 10 manga and I do like 3 vlogs in a month because I tried doing 15 and it was just way too many. The videos were too long. So yeah, I split it up into 10, 10, 10. And it's fun for me. I enjoy doing it. It gives me something to focus for the month. It gives me something positive to do. But yeah, I'm happy about my November. Even though it's a huge month and I bought way too many. I read so many. There's only 7 I didn't, and I have reasons for not. Although Double, I could have read Double maybe. On to December. December is my for shame month, but not as bad as October. Because I did actually pick up 7 volumes and I read 2, which gives me a 28.5% read rate. And as I said, December is always a really busy month and I don't always get a chance to read what I purchased before the end of the year. Something in January that I didn't read, like 10 Dance Volume 2, is more shameful not being read than something I picked up in December, because I only have a couple of weeks to read it before the end of the year, whereas 10 Dance Volume 2, I had the whole year to read, and it didn't. So what did I read? Blue Flag Volume 1, which is a new pickup. I would like to get the rest of the series. I really enjoyed it. It was a 12 and 12 recommendation from Bougie Fujoshi, and it was a great recommendation. So thank you very much. I thought I would, I thought I'd either hate it or love it, and I kind of feel both at the moment because I'm like, damn it, I love it and I hate that. The other one that I picked up and read, which was one that I've already got a copy of, but I saw it in a charity shop and I couldn't help myself, and that was Candy Color Paradox. So this one I don't know if it should even count because I've read it before. I've read it loads of times and I already have a copy. So it kind of feels like I only read one thing, whereas there's a few in here that I could have read. So Heartstopper Volume 5. I've read Volumes 1 to 4, but this was really late getting to me. But I still could have read it. It would have taken me like half an hour. Honestly, was there any excuses? No. So I probably could have, and I feel bad about it. Hirano and Kaguya Volume 2, start of a new series. So it's a Volume 2, so I needed Volume 1. So I can't start it until I get Volume 1. Then I've got Merman in My Tub Volume 2, which just adds to the Merman in My Tub series, but I don't have them all, and I don't think I'm going to read it until I have a complete set. Certainly will need to try and pick up a Volume 1, that's for sure. And then Jeweler Richard Volume 3 manga. And I'd already read Volume 1 and 2, so I don't really have an excuse for not reading that one either. And it wouldn't take me very long, so I could have read that one. And then the last one here is Frog, which is the graphic novelization of a novel, which is Male Romance by Mary Cams. Which is interesting. I really want to read it because it looks interesting. I'm not sure how I'm going to enjoy it, or if I'm going to at all. But yeah, so here we have a smaller read rate and smaller percentage, but it is 28%, which is not the lowest, and that honour goes to October with 25%. So overall, pretty good. If we go from the beginning, it's 83.3 for January, 50% for February, 84.2% for March, 68.75% for April, 72.72% for May, a little bit more than 33% now for June, 33.3% for July, 80% for August, 76.9% for September, 25% for October, 74% for November, and then 28.5% for December. So overall, it's pretty good month by month. And I picked up quite a few titles and I completed a few as well. So if we look down here, we can see that information in a more tabled format. So I completed 16, I think, overall, and I started 33. So that's not bad because it's about half. I am looking to complete as many as I can, but I don't know what I was actually I'm actually collecting. That's something I need to start looking at as a statistic. How many at the start of the year am I actually in the process of collecting? How many do I need to complete, or how many are up to date? These are things that I'm not really taking as much stock with as I should be. I really should be looking into it and having that number and be aware of that and mindful of that throughout the year. But in terms of the overall read for the year, out of the total physical, which is 163, it is 97 physical read, and that's pretty darn good for any year. And I'm really, really pleased about that. So if we look at it, 97 out of 163 as a physical read, that is 59.5%. That's almost 60% of my total, and that is 66 unread. So 97 read and 66 unread. So last year, I think that was the first time that I had read more than I had unread. So this is my second year of having a lot more read than unread. This is a really great percentage. and the numbers look really good as well. So almost 60%, pretty much 60%, it's 59.5. So yeah, just shy of 60%, which is better than last year as well. So I'm really pleased about that. That's a big pat on the back. I picked up 15 digital titles and I read 15 digital titles. So I've got a 100% read rate on my digital, which is really good. I'm very, very happy about that. My total read altogether, so if I include my digital and my physical, is 112 out of 178, which gives me a 62.9, so almost 63% read rate. And that's really good. I'm very happy about that. 60% is pretty good. I have reasons for not reading titles, and it's usually because there's volumes missing, and that's the biggest reason is volumes missing. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Then we look at which ones are 2023 releases, and that's 33 out of 163, which gives me a 20.24%. That's something I discuss in my specific 2023 releases video, but 130 of them were not 2023 releases, and I also discussed that in my 2023 releases video, just because I felt like that was something I should look at, like how many of them were 2022, how many of them were 2021, how many of them were 2020. So yeah, that's over in that video. If you haven't checked it out, go and check it out as well. Now, when it comes to the read of 2023, I read 24 out of the 33, which gives me a 72.7% read rate, which is really good. Like, obviously it's a lot higher than the 97 overall. That's 60, pretty much 72. So it is significantly higher. But what I really like looking at is the non-2023 releases purchased, and that is 73, and that gives me a 56% mark, and that's amazing as well, because that's higher than it was last year. So, or is it pretty much the same? I think it's higher. So yeah, in terms of my percentages, they are higher. I'm really happy with how it's gone, and the question of am I tsundoku? Am I just buying stuff and I'm not reading it? That's not the case. I'm obviously reading a substantial amount that I'm putting into my collection, and that is the main point of this video. It's like, am I reading what I'm buying? And the answer is, if it's a yearly release, that was last year, 72% of it I read, and if it was a non-2023 release, 56% of them I read. Overall, 59.5%, or if you can include all of the digital, 62.9. I mean, that's pretty good percentages, considering in 2021 I had over 700 unread in my collection. So yeah, pretty good. It would be interesting to compare and contrast that to everything read during the year. How many of them were ones that I actually bought in the year, and how many of them ones were already in my collection. And that's something I haven't been checking either, which is another stat I might need to look at. So as usual, I do kind of just wrap this up by saying that reading and collecting are two separate things, but I made such an effort in 2023 to read what I was buying. But I did read in total well over 400 books in 2023. So I am interested in how many of them were ones that I already owned from previous years, and how many I was picking up elsewhere, how many of them were male romance, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's an interesting statistic that I should probably check out as well. But yeah, this is a great video. Every year I seem to be happy about it, especially last year. This year is even better in every percentage point. In every way, this is a better year than last year. And last year I was super happy about how I did in terms of my reading, in terms of the ratios. Everything was really great, and I was happy about it because a lot of them were much higher than they were in previous years. And this year, every percentage is higher. So yeah, I'm really happy about how I did this year. 2023 in terms of collecting things, but also reading them. So even though they are separate hobbies, I feel good about myself and making the effort. And as I mentioned at the start, many of these were read during readathons. So I want to thank all the people who hosted readathons during 2023, because they got me through my main goal, which was to read what I own, and I certainly feel like I did that in 2023. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's kind of one of those that are a little bit disconcerting in previous years, but the past 2 years have really made me feel good about my collecting. So I need to focus on 2024. So once again, if you know any readathons happening in 2024, down in the comments below, let me know. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. There might be one more year in BL review video to come. So look out for that one. I've got my completing collections one to do as well. So yeah, if you want to hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, share, like, comment, all of that. Hopefully you did enjoy this. It is kind of a chatty video, but hopefully you took something out of this. I'd love to know what your reading rate is. Do you read everything you buy? Do you read it in the month that you buy it? Or do you, like me, wait for readathons to binge all of the books that you're excited about reading? I'd love to know down in the comments as well. Thanks so much for watching this to the end of the video. I know it's a long one, and like I said, quite a chatty one. So thank you. I appreciate you watching to the end. Take care, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!